go to Sorcha. Sorcha, your organisation has expressed concerns about the policy that the LGFA are promoting. Why? What are your concerns?
Well, if you're talking specifically about the LGFA policy, they've used a very old, outdated metric based purely on testosterone, which isn't shown to have really significantly reduced any male advantage. And the male advantage in sport actually starts to be measurable between girls and boys at about age 9, and then is accelerated by male puberty. So by the time a male has been through puberty, he has significantly bigger advantages over females. And just to go to Billy's point, even at the same weight, so if you took somebody who is the same weight, a male versus a female, the male would still have stronger bones, different muscle mass, bigger lungs, bigger heart, bigger hands, bigger feet. They would be stronger and faster, and they would be at risk of causing an injury to a lighter female player, even at the same height. So I would say that we have to follow the science on these kind of things, and it isn't really about culture wars. It's about protecting women and girls' right to single-sex sports, to fair competition in sport. It's not really about banning participation. I would say the male category just needs maybe some robust inclusion guidelines so that males feel welcome in their sport, that somebody who is a transgender person is welcome in the sport of their sex, that they don't feel excluded by that sport. But ultimately, women and girls.
All right, but just as Rebecca said there, Rebecca is a woman. She has transitioned a long time ago. Yeah. Her soul is a woman, her heart is a woman. She has absolutely no interest in playing with a male team. And why should she?
Well, why should women and girls
I want to cut in on something that you just said there. I mean, you were talking about size of feet. I have a size 6 foot. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you're talking about bones and all of that were bigger bones. Yeah. I don't have big bones, and I certainly don't have big feet. Do you know what I mean? So I think you're generalising here a lot, too.
Well, it is a general thing, though, because sport is based on general categories. We can't screen everybody. There are categories there. There are weight categories in boxing. There are Paralympic categories, and there are sex categories. And so, yes, you might have a smaller frame than somebody else, but we can't make a policy based on that. And specifically around the LGFA policy, you know, I think it's really telling that this policy didn't mention any female who identifies as male in the policy either, and that is a major oversight because.
Okay, but this is sorry, George, but this is the. Yeah. This is the Ladies Gaelic Football Association. You say there. I mean, there is a panel. There's a panel set up of legal and medical experts. There's 4 people on this panel. It's not an automatic right for a person who has transitioned to female to play. They have to make an application. As you mentioned, there are testosterone samples that they will have to submit. And the board itself will look at other issues and decide then if there is an unacceptable risk. Is that not protection, or do you just not believe the validity of this board?
Well, they've used a metric that is from 2015 and has been proven to not actually screen for any male advantage. So not really, no. The policy doesn't outline what other things the risk assessment takes into consideration. It doesn't mention how often the person's eligibility is reviewed. For example, you could have a young person who is accepted under the policy 1 year and then goes through puberty, maybe comes back at 15 or 16 and suddenly they're not allowed in anymore. And I think that's awfully unfair on that young person. So I don't really think this policy is fit for purpose, no.
To you, Sorcha, what Billy says, that there's a fear here that this is more about stoking up a culture war. You're from the Countess, this organisation that says it's representing the rights of women. Does the Countess, as an organisation, have a difficulty with trans people?
No. We have a difficulty with the legislation in this area and with the conflation of gender identity and sex as well. And in particular in sport, it's very obvious that there's a direct conflict between the rights of women and girls to have fair competition, safe space, same-sex spaces and stuff, and the rights, or I suppose, if you want to put it that way, the rights of transgender people as well. And so it's brilliant to be having discussion, but I don't think it's a culture war. It's something very fundamental.
I went on to the Countess's Twitter page before we came on air this evening, and I looked at some of the comments on the Twitter page and some of the comments that you have retweeted. The Countess group has retweeted on Twitter, being trans is a reaction to a mental illness which leads to drug dependence and mutilation. That's one of the comments retweeted on your page. Retweeted, gender self-identification is an utterly barbaric practice. I mean, that would suggest to me that this is not just about concerns for young girls playing sports. It's a wider issue that you have with trans people.
I mean...
You don't deny that those tweets are on your Twitter page.
We're being told, on the one hand, that gender dysphoria is real and requires treatment in clinics and by psychologists and psychotherapists, requires hormone treatment. So for us to say that it is concerning that that happens to young women is not
You're being
fair.
told this, but you don't know for a fact. That's pure ignorance on your part, because you're saying you're told. Who's telling you this? Do you know what I mean? My fear is that Ireland... The one thing I love about my country is that we have come right up in so many ways around gender, LGBT stuff, you know, and what's happening, just as this lady said as well, what's happening is we're getting on the back of what's happening in the UK and USA. Can we not do something on our own without having to monkey back on somebody else? Like, what you're talking about is pure crap. Sorry.
Yeah. We're a very small country in a large world. We do need to use international evidence to support whatever we do for medical treatment or sport or anything. You know, we can't just say, oh, I feel like this. That's not how policy should be developed.